Dr. Vernaleken. We're back to the podcast this month. Dr. Renzulo will not be joining us for this episode, but we're very happy to welcome Jenna Mahan. Did I say that right? Okay.
Yeah, close enough.
From Embrace Insurance, and she is the Director of Underwriting and Claims and is here to just talk to us about pet insurance overall, as well as just the different kind of provisions, especially what Embrace stands for and kind of covers with pets. And so we're very happy to have her. And why don't you give us just a little briefing about kind of who you are and how you came to Embrace?
Certainly. So I am a vet tech. So
Awesome.
I worked in emergency and critical care medicine for about 15 years. And I could no longer wrestle Rottweilers on the floor. So I was looking for a change in direction, and I found Embrace, and I started at Embrace as a claims adjuster. So I worked up from claims adjuster to manager of claims, and now I'm the director of claims and underwriting, which is very different than being a vet tech, but it's also really fun. I get to use all of my vet tech knowledge and just in a very different setting. So I love it.
It's very nice to hear, that people with medical backgrounds are often doing some of that work, because that's always the perception, I think, of insurance, is that it's some, non-medical person who only cares about money in the background, making decisions about what gets paid.
Absolutely not. There's actually about 30 registered vet techs at Embrace right now, doing claims and also staffing our telemedicine branch. Mm-hmm. So, we hire a lot of vet techs, and I love giving vet techs an opportunity to sort of expand their knowledge base and, have another direction to go if they don't want to work in a clinic anymore. So yeah. I'm pretty proud of that.
Yeah, for sure. People have reached that point in their lives where they're just like, this is a lot of demand on my body, for sure.
Yeah. And I've never been vomited on or peed on at work. It's really pretty great. So
most people can say that in their lives, but not in this field.
Not that
Tell us a little bit about Embrace.
So Embrace has been around since 2003-ish. We started as a business plan competition at Wharton. Our two co-founders started it, just as a competition, and it took off, and we sold our first policy in 2006. We're part of the North American Pet Health Insurance Association, NAPFIA. And that is a group that just sort of maintains standards among pet insurance industry. And we've been growing by leaps and bounds ever since.
That's great. Yeah. So, I think one of the things I get really commonly is the new puppy owners asking about insurance. Sometimes pet owners ask me about insurance, especially when they've had kind of a big expense, and they're like, whoa, maybe we should have gotten insurance. So, I think that sometimes I provide different advice to the different owners at different life stages, but I always feel like insurance is, potentially valuable kind of at any age. So why do you think that puppy owners should really consider getting insurance right off the bat?
It's always about pre-existing conditions. So if a pet is real young and is completely healthy, that is absolutely the best time to get pet insurance. Then everything's going to be covered down the line. It's never too late to get pet insurance. So you can insure an older pet. You just have to go into it with your eyes open, knowing that things that have happened prior to your insurance are going to be pre-existing. And certainly with an older pet, there's a higher chance of that having happened. So it's never too late. You just have to go in with your eyes open and know that, some things might not be covered, but there's also a ton of other things that could be covered down the line. So I think it's just important to definitely do it as soon as possible. Don't wait until your pet has pre-existing conditions or undiagnosed lumps and bumps and knee issues and all those things. They can always turn into really expensive things. And if your pet's insured early, we can cover it for you.
Yeah. I think that human insurance industry can sometimes throw pet owners a little bit in terms of what what the provisions are there. So like in human dental insurance, you can find out you have a problem and then get insurance and they will cover a lot of that. That is not true in human in human, I guess, depending upon how the laws of the country are working, that may be the case. But in pet insurance, yeah, if your pet, I do my exam and I find out that it has a cruciate ligament injury, and the next day you decide I'm going to get pet insurance, it is not going to cover that surgery. It will, of course, cover for the foreign body that your dog gets the next year and the allergies that it gets 2 years from now, just not the thing your pet has had prior to.
And it's really unfortunate. People get sort of a bad feeling about it. Well, I mean, everyone has a bad feeling about insurance to begin with.
Right.
They're just there to make money. Yes, we'd like to make some money, but we also take a lot of pride in being able to help pets and help pet owners not have to make decisions based on their wallet.
Right.
So, I can treat my dog's cancer or lymphoma if that happens, knock on wood, hopefully it doesn't. But I can do that without having to not make my car payment or, not be able to feed my family for a month because I have to pay for chemotherapy. So we do take a lot of pride in being able to give people that sort of peace of mind that those sort of things will be covered down the road, even if there aren't some things that are covered right now.
Right. And there are for sure, that whole pre-existing condition thing also throws people when they change insurance companies. So again, like human insurance, it has always, as far as my memory can recollect, been the case that if you changed insurance but had uninterrupted coverage, then they can't deny your pre-existing conditions, at least in most situations. Whereas with pets, if they choose one insurance company in puppyhood and then at the age of 10 decide to change, it's a completely new policy as well. So it doesn't mean that those decisions aren't good ones, that you might not want to make a change if you feel like a different provider would suit you better. But a lot of the time you're kind of having to make this sort of monumental decision when they're puppies, right? About what insurance you're going to have and kind of stick with it.
Yes. You can always decrease coverage without a penalty or anything like that. No. So if you need to save money, job situations have changed, living situations have changed, you can decrease your coverage and pay a little bit less premium. But increasing your coverage or changing providers is the time where you're definitely going to, things could get risky. Mm-hmm. You could incur new pre-existing conditions and things like that. I'm not saying that's not ever the way to go. You just, again, have to go into it with your eyes wide open. Embrace does offer something called a medical history review. So if you have a policy with somewhere else, you have some things that are covered and you want to know how that would affect your new policy at Embrace, you can sign up for this history review and we'll look at all the medical history and literally send you a list of what will not be covered.
Right.
And not all companies do that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a great thing to do, because you do often, you run into these situations where a pet owner has insurance and so they agree to a whole bunch of stuff and then they realize later that they've had it declined. And so that creates just way more problems than if they knew it right off the bat, because you wouldn't always realize that certain things might not be covered. So, I mean, diarrhea, GI stuff is always this big example. Your dog has perhaps 3 episodes of diarrhea, over a couple of years. Those could be related, and insurance companies often will view them as potentially related until kind of proven otherwise. So you do have to realize that some of these things your pet has had may have you may term it's got a sensitive GI tract. Well, that's kind of a thing, right? And so now that you've had insurance, even though you had these episodes happen before and you think they're unrelated, they may look back and say, actually, those are kind of a symptom of one condition.
Absolutely. People get caught up in that sort of situation a lot. So it's kind of just the nature of veterinary medicine to treat clinical signs.
Yep.
Veterinarians don't have the time or resources, and pet parents don't usually have the money to do all the testing and all the things to see what caused that little bout of diarrhea. They're just going to give it some meds and make it stop. So, and that's normal. That's completely what you want to do. You need to treat the clinical signs and make that pet feel better. It's not always about diagnosing why it had the diarrhea. And that is where veterinary medicine and insurance sort of mesh and cause problems. So if we don't have a diagnosis for that diarrhea, we don't know how to treat it compared to diarrhea that happens after you have a policy. Is it related? Is it not related? I don't know. Your vet probably doesn't even know. But in pet insurance, we have to say it's all possibly related. So, and it's the same thing with skin conditions. Skin is another big thing. So our policy says that any skin condition pre-policy will exclude all skin conditions until a pet is free of them for 12 months. And that's just because allergies. So, you know, a dog gets one ear infection and then gets maybe a hot spot and is a little itchy, and you just treat the clinical signs because that's what's appropriate. But what if that dog has allergies and is diagnosed later with atopy or something like that? That's where we get into sort of a sticky wicket on coverage, and people don't expect that. So we always advise, if you have any questions about what might be covered or what things have happened in your pet's past and what that might mean for your coverage, to always get that medical history review done so that you know what you're going into.
Yeah. And it's another big plug for getting insurance as, you know, early as possible when your pet's completely free of issues. So, so talk about, you know, I've always found, so I will, in full disclosure, say that I'm an Embrace policy holder. So I don't want to be like a walking commercial for Embrace, but I do love Embrace and a lot of the things about it. There are different policies out there in the entire insurance milieu, but Embrace has certain things that they, the way that you compensate owners and the way that you calculate the reimbursement that I think are great. So we have deductibles, we have reimbursement percentages. So why don't you talk a little bit about how you do that?
Okay, so yes, when you're doing your research, trying to figure out what pet insurance is right for you, it's definitely important to look at a couple of things. So it's not, if you just look at the cost of the pet insurance, you're not getting the full picture. So it's all about, you know, what you choose for your coverage to be, what you want your annual maximum to be, and that's how much you are able to be reimbursed per policy term. So we go from $5,000, $8,000, $10,000, $15,000, $30,000, and unlimited, which is more expensive for sure. But if you live in a really expensive area like San Francisco or Seattle, some of those higher policy limits could be worth it to you. Veterinary care is much more expensive. And then deductibles range from $200 a year up to $1,000 a year. And reimbursement percentages from 70, 80, or 90%. So there's a couple of important things in there. We have a yearly deductible. So we're only going to have you pay into your deductible once per term. Some companies have a per incident deductible. So if your pet has a foreign body surgery and then maybe has a knee injury or a lameness, and then later on has a skin infection, those are all 3 separate deductibles. So Embrace only has it yearly. You know what it's going to be. And it actually goes down each year by $50 if you don't claim or get reimbursement in the prior year. So I have a $500 deductible on all my pets, and they haven't had to claim recently. So they're all down to, I think, $200 per year, which is a great feature. And the other thing to look at when you're looking at pet insurance is how they calculate your reimbursement. So Embrace takes out your deductible first. So let's say you get a $1,000 claim, you have a $200 deductible. So we take that $200 and put it first towards your deductible and then calculate your copay. So if you have an 80% reimbursement, you have a 20% copay. So take 20% out of that $800 that's left, and then calculate, oh man, I'm trying to do math verbally.
$160 off.
$160 off.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
So you're going to pay $160, right? And then they're going to reimburse the 80%. Yeah.
Exactly. So you're actually going to get more money back in that version than if we took out your copay and then subtracted your deductible. Mm-hmm. I think it's only $40 difference, but that's just for one claim. Over time and over the years, that amount can really add up. So you need to pay attention to a lot of different little details in the pet insurance to sort of figure out which one's right for you. And our website does compare those things for you, so you know what's going on.
Yeah, and that's something that I usually, when I'm talking to owners about insurance, I definitely, so there's different models of reimbursement. There are some insurance companies that do more of a fee schedule sort of thing. So they'll say, this is the amount that we will reimburse for this condition. And so it's on a sort of per condition basis. And then many insurance companies are moving towards, the model more of just reimbursing for the actual amount you spent. I definitely advise that. So that's, multiple insurance companies do more of the fee schedule setup. And then there's multiple insurance companies that just reimburse on a percentage of your bill. And if you think about it, I don't want to be quibbling with an owner about whether my fees are higher or lower than this fee schedule that was provided. It's usually regional, but it's not as detailed regional as you would like. So they'll just take an entire region, like they'll say New England is this. Well, the fees in northern Maine are going to be very different from the fees in the middle of Boston. And so those fee schedules a lot of the time end up just capping you at a certain amount for this particular procedure. And that also doesn't necessarily take into consideration any, adverse events that might happen. Sometimes you have a surgery that you do have to go and do additional work on. And once you're sort of capped, that's an issue. So that's one thing that I would say is a big differentiator with insurance companies is I do try to advise that people go for a policy that will provide them with a percentage reimbursement, whatever that percentage they choose.
Absolutely. There, like you said, are a couple companies still out there that use, it's called reasonable and customary fees.
Right.
So they'll look at a certain region and say, in this region, heartworm and Lyme tests cost $50, and that's what they're going to reimburse you for. If your vet charged you $85 for that, they're only still going to reimburse you upon the $50. And Embrace doesn't think that's really fair. So, so we definitely will reimburse you based on what you're actually charged, not what is normal in your area. And at this point, it's really hard to even say what's normal in an area because, like you said, if you go, like I live in Cleveland, Ohio, and if you go to a vet on the east side of Cleveland, it is going to charge you a whole lot different than a little vet on the west side of Cleveland. But if they're all in the same metro area, so your insurance is going to reimburse you the same no matter what. And we don't do it like that, but there are some companies out there that still do. And that is definitely something to pay attention to.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, choosing deductibles, every company is going to make you choose a deductible. And that, is basically your personal decision. That's kind of how you feel about how much you can spend in a particular year out of pocket versus having it covered. It's going to sort of be directly related to your premiums, right? You're going to pay more in premiums for a lower deductible and higher premiums for a higher deductible. But that's really a personal decision. And as is the reimbursement rate, right? Choosing. Yes. And I do like that Embrace allows you to choose. There are also some companies that just set a reimbursement rate, which is fine if that would have been the rate that you would have chosen. But you'll pay higher premiums, obviously, for the higher reimbursement rate. So some people might want to choose a lower rate. Like I actually have a really high deductible and really the lowest percentage because I feel like I could pay a certain amount in any one incident, but I do want to be covered for the $5,000 or $10,000 crazy thing. That's the one that I'm really worried about. So that's just about your personal finances, really.
Yeah. And I did mine the same way. So I feel that I can cover a $100 or $200 visit for an ear infection, but I don't want to be responsible for a $5,000 TPLO surgery for my dog's cruciate ligament, or a splenic mass, or who knows any of the weird things that my golden retrievers will get. Golden retrievers and labs. So I'm prepared. And I think that I can cover some of the little things. So I have a higher deductible and a lower reimbursement from other people. But if you want every dime back, and you are, you want to be reimbursed for all the little things too, and that's up to you. You're going to pay a little bit more monthly for it, but you're going to get more back, and that's your own personal financial choice.
Yep. And then you alluded to the deductible and whether it's per incident, per year. Some companies even, I think, do per condition. And so those are all, that's like a roll of the dice, right? You don't know what if your pet is going to get a million little unrelated things in one particular year, then obviously getting a per year deductible is great. If your pet gets one big, like allergies, right? They get allergies and that's the only thing they ever get, then sometimes those per condition deductibles will work out in your favor. I don't find that most animals are that way. Most animals tend to get, they get a broken nail, they get an ear infection, they get, some diarrhea in a year. So again, it's kind of a roll of the dice, but the deductible just applies. You definitely, I would say, be careful with ones that are per incident because you will less commonly get reimbursed. Most of the fees are going to be for those smaller things going to be under their deductible limit.
Exactly. And that's just another thing about going into it with your eyes wide open.
Right.
And unfortunately, that I'm aware, none of us can tell the future. So we don't know, if your pet's going to get a bunch of little things or one thing throughout a year. So I like the yearly just because then I know what to expect.
Yeah. Because you don't want to be having, sometimes then too, you're getting into quibbling about, well, this is related or this is not related, right? So that's another point of contention that, you want to have a good friendly relationship with your insurance company and not always be sort of fighting with them.
Yes.
And that's something that, I do think different policies can promote more fighting or less fighting. So
yes, I always think about renal failure for cats for things like this. So like the kidneys control basically the whole rest of the body. Yeah. And I think that a lot of people don't realize that, if the cat is vomiting, it's renal failure. If it's dehydrated, if it's constipated, not eating, all of those things are going to be related to that renal failure. And whether that company that has the per incident deductible treats it that way or not is up to them. Mm-hmm. So yes, that could cause a lot of confusion. You're not budgeting correctly because you don't know what they're going to do. Mm-hmm. Yearly deductible, exactly, this is what it's going to be. With the per incident or per condition, you really just don't know what they're going to associate. Mm-hmm. And do you have the ability to change what they're going to associate? I don't know how that works. Yeah.
So segueing a little bit into wellness is always a big, I always find this a difficult thing to explain to owners is, there are companies that provide a true reimbursement for well pet care. There are some like yours, I believe, that have a wellness package coverage. I don't know actually what you call it, but it's an additional wellness add-on that you can receive reimbursement for wellness care. And then some insurance companies do not cover anything wellness related. So do you want to talk about Embrace and how they handle that?
So we will cover anything routine care. So spays, neuters, vaccines, preventative testing, grooming, even collars and harnesses, things like that. We cover all of it up to your yearly limit. And it's sort of more like a health savings account than it is like insurance. It's not insurance. It's so if you get the $250 plan, you pay into it monthly, like a health savings account, and you end up getting a little bit free money at the end. So you pay $225 for your $250 coverage, and it's a great budgeting tool. Mm-hmm. So if you have, a big dental cleaning coming up for your pet, and you know that, you don't have $400 sitting around, you can use your wellness coverage to get reimbursement for that dental cleaning, and then we'll give you the $400 back. There's no deductible, there's no copay. You pay in $400 for your dental, you get $400 back.
Yep.
So
yeah, that's how I explain it to people. It's like an FSA, like you're paying it. So you should keep track of that money and make sure that you spend it all out, right? Because it is your money. But you do get a little extra, like just like an FSA, right? It's before tax. It's not the same exact thing, but
it's like an FSA. Yes. Instead of it being tax-free, we give you a little bit extra for, doing that routine care. We've found, it's a proven fact that pets who get regular routine care and regular exams and vaccines and preventative testing are healthier longer. Mm-hmm. So it's a good thing for the insurance company because you don't have as many claims, and it's a good thing for your pet because it's healthier longer. Other plans will have you pay a bulk fee, and then you get like 2 yearly exams. You get 3 vaccines included. You get this one test and that one thing. And it's sort of piecemeal. Mm-hmm. So you just need to pay attention on your wellness program, what they're giving you. Do you need a dental this year for your pet? Do you need ear cleanings and nail trims on a regular basis or not? So with our wellness plan, we cover literally anything. There's no maximum. You can only get like 6 nail trims a year or anything like that. You can go every 2 weeks if you really want. And we will reimburse you for that. You just submit the claim, and we usually have the money back to people in about 2 business days.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so that's, technologically, I don't really know all insurance companies, but for sure, I would advise that people find one that does have a good web interface that you can look up your claim levels and what you've spent and all your claims and submit claims online. So that is a for sure plug for Embrace, because I find that that's one of the easiest things to do is submitting claims. Just send it via email. I think you can upload them on the website, or if not, it's instantly there once you've sent the email in. And you can change your coverage, online without having to talk to people. I love talking to people, but at some point I just like, clicking something to change things.
Well, yeah, that, and sometimes it's midnight when you're thinking about those things.
Right. You're like, I just bought heartworm stuff on Chewy at midnight.
Exactly. I'm going to submit my claim for it. And yes, so we have 2 places on the portal where you can submit claims. You can just submit a bulk of documents to us, or you can actually set up your claim yourself, which is pretty cool. You put in the date of service, you put in your clinic, and it sets it up and gives you a claim number right at the end of it. And that is actually getting easier soon. We're going to take out one of the claim form requirements. So to be determined on a date for that, but real soon. You can fax it, email it. And if you're still into snail mail, you can do that too.
I think too that, the ease of form. So, almost every insurance company and veterinarian relationship is going to be, you pay for your services to the vet, and then you submit your claim and get reimbursed. And that is, although there are some companies that will directly pay veterinarians, it's really messy. I got to tell you, I try not to do that. And most veterinarians really do try not to mess with insurance company claims, not because it's hard, but because it's really, there's just a lot of policies. So we would not know what the reimbursement was going to be necessarily for every different insurance company. So what you want as a consumer is to have an insurance company that you can interact with easily, that you aren't jumping through hoops to get your claims processed. So that's, also insurance claim forms. Vets love it when these claim forms are easy. So, the well claims, we don't even have to sign. The sick ones, oftentimes we have to just write a diagnosis and sign it. And then, we may need to send in some documentation. Oftentimes we don't. A lot of the time when that diagnosis is something brand new that that pet has never had a claim for and it's not excluded, all we have to do is write, otitis externa, which is ear infection, and it's done. That's all.
Yeah, we try to bother vets as little as possible. We know you guys are busy. We always need medical history either at the beginning of the policy if we're doing that medical history review, or we need it for a pet's first illness claim. Mm-hmm. So we do that the first time around, and then we probably won't ever need to bother you guys for medical history again. We do sometimes need medical history in the interim for complicated claims like dental. Oh my gosh. So dental claims are hard because is that extraction for that tooth because of a fracture? And if it is, it goes under your accident policy. Is it because of dental disease? And yes, it goes under your dental illness sublimit. So we often need to get additional information for those types of claims. But for the most part, we don't need anything else after that initial burst of medical history. Mm-hmm. And all we need for each claim is a diagnosis and an itemized invoice.
Yep.
That's all we need.
Yeah, the dental stuff is always, I do a lot of dentistry, and that's always tricky. I usually default to telling owners really don't expect full coverage for dental. Tricky part is it wellness or is it sick, right? So if we're following appropriate recommendations, we're doing it before there's an illness. And then it would certainly get reimbursed under well pet coverage, depending upon the policy, obviously. But when you get in there and you're doing a routine dental cleaning and, oh, look, there's a fracture that we didn't see until we got in there, then how does that get covered? I just leave that to the companies to figure out. Yeah.
I'm actually not allowed to do dental claims anymore because I've been out of it for so long that like the claims manager is like, oh no, Jenna.
Yeah.
No, it's too complicated. So hands off. Yeah. But yes, we try to cover as much as we can for dental things. We do offer dental coverage. It is $1,000 a year within your yearly maximum. So we can cover, dental illnesses like teeth that are diseased and need to come out because of that. A fractured tooth is an accident, so that's a little different. So gingival hyperplasia, that's always a big one. All those things are covered under the dental illness, and some policies don't cover dental illnesses at all. Some of them will cover it if you had an exam and you had a cleaning, if recommended. Like there's a couple other hoops to jump through to get that. We try to make it simple as possible, as simple as dental coverage can ever be. It tends to be complicated just because dental illnesses are preventable. Mm-hmm. So like you said, if you're following regular recommendations and doing teeth cleanings regularly or as needed, then, you can technically avoid those other dental illnesses. So historically, dental illnesses haven't been covered in a lot of insurance policies because they are preventable issues. Mm-hmm. But things are evolving, more coverages are coming out and stuff like that. It's hard.
It's always a tricky part because then it's like, as a veterinarian too, you want to make the appropriate recommendations, but then if you missed worse dental disease and didn't recommend a cleaning, and then it gets declined and stuff. So it's nice to hear that they're evolving because it's hard. It's hard for everybody.
It is. Yeah, we when we first rolled it out, we consulted a couple veterinary dentists and so what do you think about this? Right. And we actually made some changes on their recommendations. So if your pet has pre-existing dental tartar, we're not going to cover that first dental illness. But then once you have a cleaning, technically your dental illness is resolved. So that exclusion expires off your policy, and then any future dental things can be covered. So I think that's a really good policy for us. And that was recommended by a veterinary dentist. And we were like, yeah, I agree. Let's do that.
Yeah. And I'm going to speak to the idea of, I do get asked often what, is insurance really valuable, or is it really just something that allows you to budget? And if I budget really well on my own, can't I reproduce that? Of course. I mean, if you are budgeting and saying, I'm going to set aside, some amount of money every month, and that's going to be my pet's health account, and that I'm not going to touch unless I need it. If you are that disciplined, then that's great. That's totally fine.
But most people aren't those people.
Yeah. So in my experience, that does not happen. So you may have the best of intentions, but it doesn't happen. And when I deal with pets that have insurance, I got to tell you, it's a different situation. When the pets have insurance, I do not have financial conversations that I have. I'm not saying I don't try to have those conversations, but I get waved off. Just do whatever you would do for your own animal if money was no object because I have insurance. And that's very different, right? So then I know, look, I'm just going to do this, what's in the best interest of this pet, and I'm not going to worry about it. And that's an amazing feeling as a vet, and it must be as an owner.
Oh yeah. I mean, I worked in emergency medicine, like I said, for 15 years. And in that setting, it's often the technician's job to go over an estimate and decide, this is what the veterinarian would love to do for your pet. Right. We'd like to do tests A, B, C, and D. What do you want to do? And the nickel and diming of, well, let's start with this and see if it shows anything. Let's start with the x-ray. And if that doesn't show anything, let's do the blood work. And that sort of thing is, reality. You can't always just plop down $2,000 to pay for whatever silly thing your dog ate or came down with or anything like that. And that's really what insurance is for pets. Mm-hmm. It's being able to walk into a situation like that and say, do what you need to do what you would do for your own pet. And that is definitely the golden thing about insurance. It takes that worry right off the table. You can do what's best.
I think too, we all get stuck a little bit in nostalgia for the days that were, or kind of don't realize where things are right now cost wise. And I think whenever you go to buy some big ticket item, you're like, wow, cars cost that much now, or, whatever. So, anytime a pet comes in to the hospital, usually for some illness, you're spending at least a couple $100. And, for something more significant, or you may not even think that it's that significant, but like vomiting and diarrhea, you do x-rays and blood work, you're probably spending $600 or $700 when all is said and done with the treatment that it needs. And that's without hospitalization. So, a really bad trauma case where an animal was hit by a car, gosh, $5,000 to $10,000, no question.
Yeah.
So if you don't have that available, you are going to be scrambling. You're going to be putting stuff on credit cards. You're going to be taking out effectively loans. And so, that's always the tricky thing where, I do not want to have to let a pet go for financial reasons anytime if I could save that pet, but it's only for money. Of course it happens. And of course there's no judgment, but it hurts everybody, so, if you were able to swing, a regular monthly payment to avoid those situations, maybe your pet never will get hit by a car. And if you go through your entire pet's life and never have to use that policy,
great.
Spectacular.
I know.
Spectacular.
I know. That's the ideal. I have pet insurance and I've never gotten a reimbursement. So I've had my policies.
Me too, actually.
Years. Yes, for 9 years.
I'm looking down at my little dog.
Mine's actually barking in the bedroom, and I'm hoping you can't hear it.
No, we can't.
Good. I've had policies on my pets since I had them 9 years, never gotten a reimbursement, and I want to keep it that way. Yeah. I am perfectly happy to pay my $30 per pet per month or whatever it is. I think my guys are a little older now, so it's a little more expensive, but I'm perfectly happy to pay that and never use the insurance because I know, I can walk into a clinic and be like, do what you got to do. Yep. As a vet tech, I have certain fears, specific fears about my pets, that my male cat is going to be blocked and not be able to urinate, that my golden is going to get cancer, that my dumb lab is going to run into the street and get hit by a car or eat something insane and get obstructed. And thankfully, none of these things have happened. But I know that if they do, I'm covered. I can just go do what needs to be done for my pet without having to call relatives for money or apply for care credit or put it on a credit card where the interest rate is astronomical. So yeah, totally takes a load off and has helped me sleep better.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So, in many insurance companies do have little, discount things for current, owners of that visit a particular practice. I think Embrace has a discount program. Is that correct?
There's a couple discounts available. Yeah. We do have, if you have more than one pet on the insurance policy, you get a 10% discount. We have a 5% discount if you're former or active military. Mm-hmm. And then we do have discounts available for certain preferred partner practices. Yeah. And that is a 5% discount. So anyone who is part of your Ethos practice system is able to get that 5% discount on a policy. It's off their total premium, and it stacks on top of those other discounts too. Mm-hmm. So if you're a veteran and you have more than 2 pets and you're an Ethos client, you can get all those discounts, which is Excellent. Great.
And we'll have notes for that in the show notes below on the video as well, so you can find out how to take advantage of any discounts that we offer.
I was going to say we'll provide a link in all of the descriptions for where this gets published.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. Great,
Jenna. If you don't mind, we actually have a couple questions. And these were actually gathered from online profiles, channels that we have. So across Ethos from different followers, fans, clients. And I'm calling them kind of a list of myths that we either need to say are true or we need to debunk. So the first one is my indoor cat does not need insurance.
Oh, boo. No.
Boo.
Cats are hidey little stoic animals. So I always say that it's really important to have your cat insured because they will not tell you that they're sick until they are so sick. And, that's the point when you need it. There's so many things that can happen to cats that are so expensive, like diabetes and kidney failure and cancer and things like that. And sometimes you don't even know a cat is sick until it's so far along, and that's when it's going to be really, really expensive. So I definitely think cats should be insured.
I echo that. Insurance, indoor cats, the owners spend way more money than outdoor cats. And there's only, a small list of things that outdoor cats get that indoor cats don't, getting attacked or getting hit by a car. And the indoor cats are the ones that you see with the blocked cat, with the foreign body, with the diabetes. Like all of those things can happen indoor or outdoor, and they're way more expensive. So
agreed. Yeah.
The next myth or fact is I have an older dog and there's no point getting insurance now.
Also boo.
Boo.
No, I think that is just one of the things you need to go into with your eyes wide open. You need to know that anything that's happened in the past 12 months isn't going to be covered if it happens again. But other things can be covered. So what if your dog has allergies and it's diagnosed and stuff like that? If it comes down with cancer or tears a cruciate ligament or starts showing signs of hip dysplasia, those are all old dog things. And as long as it hasn't happened yet, it would be covered by your insurance. Just know that your premium's going to be a little higher because your dog is older, and things that have happened before aren't going to be covered going forward. But it's still totally worth it.
All right. The next one, I have a feeling I think I know the answer to this one, but it's pet insurance is more expensive than human health insurance.
Oh, are you kidding me?
That is an actual comment that we got. Yep.
Sorry, I didn't mean to judge our online person, whoever that was.
I would disagree with that. It's very rare to have a premium for a pet that's over $100 a month. Even a bigger, older pet, premiums are set by your dog's age, breed, sex, and location. So if you live in San Francisco or New York City, your premium is going to be higher. But I would also hazard to guess that your health insurance premium is going to be higher. So it's definitely not going to be as expensive no matter what. I have 5 pets insured, okay? And my premium overall is higher than my health insurance, but that's because I have really great health insurance through Embrace, and it's employer subsidized, and I'm just paying for myself. So, but per pet, no, it is definitely not more expensive than human health insurance.
Yeah, I think people need to recognize that what they pay for their health insurance is not what is being paid for their health insurance, right? So your employer contributes an awful lot of money for your health insurance, and you probably don't even realize it. And that's like, we're talking $10,000 a year. You know, that you're not paying anywhere near that for your pet insurance. So ask your employer how much they're paying on your behalf, please, if you don't know.
How much your insurance actually costs.
Yes.
Versus what you're paying per month is not the same thing.
And personally, on that note, I have an older dog, but I got him insurance later in life. He was probably about 5 when I got him insurance, and I pay about $35 a month.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's through Embrace.
I think I pay like $20 a month for my dog, who's like 7, and I've had her insured since I got her. But I mean, my health insurance is way more than that, like way more.
Yeah. And I'm one of those bad examples where I too did not get pet insurance when I first got my dog. He, came from rescue as a puppy, and I've been in the veterinary field, and I didn't really think about it too much. And then at 5, he got epilepsy. And that obviously I did not have insurance, and went through, seeing a neurologist and all that. And he is on medication for the rest of his life, which won't be covered.
Cheap.
Yeah, that won't be covered. However, after that, I then purchased pet insurance, and
then he blew his cruciate.
Like a year later. And it was so easy. Like, and I don't want to speak just for Embrace too, because that's the only experience I've had, but pet insurance in general, like if I didn't have it, I'd be a lot in debt.
And you would have spent, $5,000 for that cruciate. And then I think he even had some complications after that. You would have been just on the hook for all of that. And you would have been angry.
2 months of PT. And all of that was covered. So it was amazing. So,
when he has arthritis down the road from the surgery and from the joint damage,
don't tell her that
covered. I mean, sorry.
Coming out of here. He's perfect. He's never gonna get hurt.
Say if he has.
Say if to Lauren, because
I know I'm the same way with my one little girl dog. She's perfect, and she will always be perfect, and nothing is ever going to happen to her. She's like my heart dog. Yeah.
So I have
Hazel.
Oh,
yeah.
I have 2 more myths for you, or facts. You tell us. And this one might be hard for you because you only work for one company, but it's too hard to submit a claim. That was the note.
I think that's a myth. I think that we've made it quite easy over the years, quite easier. I have never worked for another company, but I did, as working as a vet tech, see other claim forms. And I've seen some where you actually have to circle a diagnosis from a list of diagnoses. And that's pretty much gone away, I think. But we also used to have a hospital sign it and stamp it, and you had to sign it. Now we literally just need you to check one box. Is this a wellness claim or an illness claim? And write in a diagnosis. So, what is this medication for? Or what clinical signs was your pet seen for? That's it. And then you can send it through 5 different channels, whether it's on our portal, uploading it, starting a claim yourself on the portal, emailing it, faxing it, or snail mailing it. So I don't think it's really hard to submit a claim. And I think that things in the future are only going to get easier for things like that. We have an app now. Most companies do. You can just take a picture of your invoice. If you don't have a claim form, you don't have a printer. I don't have a printer. You can not give us a diagnosis and we can bother your vet for it. We'd of course appreciate if you gave us a diagnosis because your claim would go faster and then we don't have to bug your vet. But we can handle those situations if we have to. So I would say that's a myth. I think that it's pretty easy to submit the claims nowadays.
Yeah, I think it depends on the company. I think that I still have one pet that's insured with some company I've never seen before, but this one pet has this insurance that it's like a 3-page claim form, and they make you fill in like, when was this pet first seen at your practice? Like every time you fill it, every time you do it, you have to write a whole giant blurb about what you saw this pet for and enclose the entire medical. And I don't know if it's the owner that's requesting some of that stuff and not the insurance company, but the insurance form is difficult. So, not every company is super easy, but the majority of them I find make it very easy. And I never, as a vet, I don't mind doing claim forms at all. So like we say, oh, don't bother the vet with it. Whatever, it's fine. But it's annoying when they are like that, when they're an easy claim form, it's like no big deal.
And the pet owners, they want their reimbursement as fast as possible. So
right.
they can also put some pressure on vets sometimes to get them done as soon as possible. And we try to take that out of the equation as much as we can. And it's only going to get easier as time goes on, as technology progresses.
I'll tell you what, across the board, no matter what the insurance company is, though, just bring your claim form when you go to the visit, please.
Yes, I know.
I'll sign it right then. Like, just bring it. Anyway.
The last one that we have, you kind of touched on earlier in the episode, but I'm going to tell it to you anyway. And it's it takes forever to get reimbursements.
That can be true depending on a couple factors. So if it's your first illness claim, like I said before, we need to look at your medical history before that. If you've seen 16 different clinics, that's going to take longer because we have to get the medical history from each different clinic. If you've only seen one clinic and they send us the medical history immediately, we're going to get your claim done usually within 10 business days. And then every claim after that is done much faster because we usually don't need any additional information. So our rate right now is 93% of all claims within 10 business days, which I think is pretty good. I don't think that my health insurance gets it done that fast. And I know my car insurance doesn't get it done that fast when I've had to make a claim. So I think we do pretty good. And most of the insurance companies have published rates on their websites about how fast they get claims back to you. So again, that's just one of those things you need to go into knowing that that's something you need to look for. How long does it take to get a claim back?
And to look into how your chosen insurance company or the 3 that you've narrowed it down to, how do they process claims? Do they do it electronically? Do they require some? I can't think of one that would only do like snail mail, but I guess you should check for that.
Yeah. I don't know of any either, but I do know some companies don't have actual claim systems yet.
Right.
There's about 20 pet insurance companies out there right now, and there's no such thing as like a pet insurance claims administration system. We've all sort of built our own or are working under other programs that are customized to be able to do pet claims. And some pet insurance companies are still working on Excel sheets and sending you PDFs. So that is definitely a factor in, some of those newer, younger insurance companies. They don't really have their systems all done yet. I think over the past 2 years, we've seen 8 or 10 new insurance companies pop up. So looking at how long your insurance company or the insurance companies you're looking at, how long they've been around is probably a good factor to look at too.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And just before we say goodbye to you, where would you recommend a pet parent go to start with their research? Do you have a specific site or resource that you could recommend?
Well, beyond embracepetiinsurance.com is Pet Insurance Review. Is a really great website. They compare everything pretty apples to apples. and they have a lot of reviews by actual owners of pet insurance. Sometimes you have to take some of that with a grain of salt, the reviews, same thing like on Yelp, only the people who aren't happy sometimes are the ones who send reviews in. But I think that petinsurancereview.com is really good about keeping track of the good ones and the bad ones, and giving everyone a good view, a direct comparison of features.
And you can ask your vet. Not every vet is as comfortable with pet insurance maybe as others. Definitely, there are a lot of vets that have a really negative opinion about pet insurance based upon older companies that are actually probably no longer in existence. A lot of them do have a lot of knowledge and can point you towards, good resources. So I definitely feel like the calculators that you have on Embrace are great. And, I think it's a good idea to sort of game out some scenarios, say, figure out what your reimbursement would be for, if your pet has this thing or this thing, pick two things and try to figure out what it would be.
And we have a lot of claim stories on there too that have gone through, past pets experiences and what their deductible was at that time and where their reimbursement was at that time, and given you exactly what we paid out on the claim. Mm-hmm. So I think that that's really helpful information to look at when you're evaluating a pet insurance company.
Yep.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for joining us. So, definitely check out the show notes for links to information about insurance overall, as well as Embrace specifically, and those discount codes, if there are codes or links, whatever.
Yep.
Yeah. So, Jenna, we'll say goodbye to you. And I have a little blurb about pet travel. So thank you again so much for coming.
Thank you.
Bye. Nice talking to you, ladies.
Nice talking to you as well. So international pet travel, it's interesting that I would be talking about this right now. We're still at this time of this recording in the middle of, a continued and ongoing global pandemic where it seems like travel wouldn't really be happening as much. But I've been seeing just a ton of patients coming in to have international health certificates done. Part of this is because we are one of the few hospitals in the area that does them. A lot of hospitals have declined to do them, or they're just so busy that they can't kind of fit them in, so they send them over to us. The thing that I want to say about these is that they almost never go off without a hitch, because we don't think about pet travel when we're getting our well care done. We don't necessarily think about what the requirements might be. You cannot just hop on an airplane with your pet and go internationally. So countries have a right to try to protect their borders from different foreign diseases, and they do that in various different ways. And every country has a really different setup for what they require. So it can be as simple as just making sure a pet is rabies vaccinated and signing off on their health. It can be as complicated as requiring multiple rabies titers to be done under certain circumstances with certain labs. Some of the interesting ones, we had a pet that is potentially traveling to South Africa who has to get a boatload of testing done for diseases that, no, we don't see here very often, but they sure want to keep out of South Africa because of their wildlife population. So, that process has to start many months before that pet is ever going to travel. South Korea is another one. A lot of the Asian countries have requirements for rabies titers and things like that. Hawaii is interstate, but you cannot just simply hop on an airplane and take your pet there. They don't have rabies, and they're trying to keep it that way. So my advice to people is, if you're thinking about traveling with your pet, call your vet the minute you think you might want to. And I'm not saying a week before, I'm saying 6 months in advance. Call them and find out if they even do these certificates, which they may not. And if they don't, ask them where they would advise that you go to get your certificate done. And then call up that hospital and make an appointment to review all of your paperwork in advance. I get constantly appointments scheduled, don't have any paperwork sent to me in advance to review it. And I get to this appointment and say to the owner, you're not going to be traveling to Spain with your dog. Your dog can't go on a vacation with you at the last minute to Spain if it hasn't had particular requirements met ahead of time. So that's just my little public service announcement is if you're going to be traveling internationally, please plan it in advance and make sure that all of the records are at the vet that's doing the international certificate before you go there for that appointment. So, Lauren, do you have any other things that you wanted to talk about on this?
No, no, I think that's great information. And to throw out as well, some countries have very specific time frames for when things have to be done. The UK, for example, you have to do something, 6 weeks before and then 4 weeks before, as well as 6 months in advance.
Right.
So they are strict schedules.
Yeah. Just to give you like an example, one of the most common requirements, and this is all of Europe and the UK, is that a pet has to be microchipped to go there. You cannot travel internationally unless they are. But your pet also has to be rabies vaccinated after the microchip is placed. So you cannot schedule an appointment with me 10 days before you're going to travel and say, oh, I'll just get the microchip put in then. It'll be fine. No, because that means that you are effectively, as far as the UK and the European Union are concerned, your pet is not vaccinated until it receives the microchip. Even if it's had 5 rabies vaccines throughout its life, it is considered unvaccinated. And then you have to wait a certain amount of time after the first rabies vaccine is done. So that microchip has to be in place it has to be at least 30 days before you're going to travel. Give a rabies vaccine even on the day of the microchip placement is fine, but you have to wait now. And that's true if it's overdue for its vaccination as well. You have to wait 30 days. So you can't have an unvaccinated or not up to date cat or dog that you just go and schedule an appointment to get your certificate done. And then these certificates have to be sent to the USDA to be certified. So you have to have a little bit of time for that. It's just not a simple process. And so please schedule it in advance.
And we also have a little bit of information, some blogs on our website. So if you go to ethosvet.com and go to the blogs,
which I think I wrote.
I think you might have written some of them. Yeah. So you can just search international travel. You'll find some information there as well.
Yeah, great. All right. So I think we're going to say goodbye to you for today. And thank you for joining us. I just want to thank our sponsors, Ethos Veterinary, our sponsor, Ethos Veterinary Health. And as always, Lauren and Rachel, who are our producers/directors of these episodes, they do just so much work of editing and everything. So directing us to provide you with an informative and not ranty podcast. Thank you so much. Lindsay will be back in the next episode, and have a great day.